On the evening of Tuesday, February 9th, 1988, someone went to this storefront just outside Ikebukuro Station and waited. Before long, they were joined by another person, and another, and a line formed. By morning, that line was 10,000 people deep, and they were all there to get Dragon Quest III. Okay, let's flash back for a moment. Dragon Quest I did well, but it wasn't a smash hit. Dragon Quest II was a hit. Not world-shattering, but it was the game that people were playing in early 1987. Naturally, Chunsoft got started on a sequel immediately. And then something happened. Dragon Quest II was a big enough hit that the game magazines at the time began to very closely follow the development of Dragon Quest III. There was a preview of Dragon Quest III in every single issue of every single game magazine from about August onward. And keep in mind, some of these magazines were bi-weekly. The breathless coverage of Dragon Quest III drove interest in Dragon Quest II, which then drove more interest in Dragon Quest III. By the fall of 1987, it was clear that Dragon Quest III was too big of a project. It wasn't going to be ready for release in December, so it got pushed back a couple of months. By the time February came around, interest in Dragon Quest was at a fever pitch. And that's what resulted in that scene outside that store February 10th. A scene replicated across Japan. Dragon Quest III is the moment that Dragon Quest goes from being a kind of popular game to being a cultural phenomenon. That Tuesday release causing all those kids to stay out overnight in line is what makes Enix only release Dragon Quest games on days off from school. Schools reported problems with children being bullied because they couldn't get a copy of the game. And the fervor around Dragon Quest III continues to this day. At the 2021-2020 Olympics in Tokyo, athletes entered the stadium to music from Dragon Quest III. Dragon Quest III would go on to sell almost 4 million copies, making it the third best-selling Famicom game. And it only missed the number 2 spot by about 20,000 units. Something I've been having trouble with as I get further into Famidaily is that documentation tends to be very sparse on a lot of games. There might be a magazine preview. Occasionally I'll find an advertisement, though I'm starting to run out of magazines too. If I'm lucky, I'll have bought a box copy and have access to the manual. That's not a problem with Dragon Quest III. I personally have a manual and the guidebook, and there's tons of extra material out there. I could do this whole video without showing any footage of the actual game. This wouldn't be much of a Famicom catalog if I skipped over talking about the game itself. Dragon Quest III takes place on Earth. I mean, just look at the map. On your 16th birthday, you're summoned before the king. He wants you to fulfill your father's quest, to destroy the demonic Baramos. And so you gather your friends, and set out on a very long journey. The first big thing in Dragon Quest III is that all of the characters except your own are ones you create. You're always the hero, and that's your character class. But you can travel with up to 3 companions, and they're ones that you make yourself. They can be warriors, clerics, wizards, martial artists, merchants, and good-for-nothings. For my time playing, I decided to go with a cleric, mage, and good-for-nothing. The secret power of the good-for-nothing is if you level them up enough, they change to a much more powerful class. There was no way I was getting that far in this video, but I still wanted to use one of the unusual classes. From the king you also get some starting equipment and a little bit of money, and then you start the grind. Similar to early editions of Dungeons & Dragons, all of the classes level up at different rates, and the hero levels up the slowest. It is about a 4-hour grind before you're ready to take on a dungeon. Another big change for Dragon Quest III is no more clunky passwords. This is the first Dragon Quest game with a battery save, and there's 3 save slots available for your parties. You still have to go chat with a king to save your game though. In previous Dragon Quest games, if the party was wiped out, you were sent back to the king and lost half your gold. For Dragon Quest III, you can deposit some of your money in a bank. That'll protect your money if you get wiped out, and you can use it for extra storage for items given your party's limited inventory slots. I spent my first hour just heading out to the second town and leveling up. Eventually I got enough cash to fully equip my party with their starting gear. That took about an hour and a half. But even before that, I began exploring some of the dungeons in the area. And I found something out while going through those dungeons. Dragon Quest III has an enormous encounter rate. There was one point where I got 6 encounters in 10 steps. The combat itself hasn't changed much from previous games. It's still options between fight, magic, defend, use an item, or run away. The big change here is that you now attack groups of monsters. So when you're attacked by a bunch of slimes, if one dies, it's not like everyone else misses. I also noticed that Dragon Quest III tends towards very large encounters. Given the nature of the game, the quantity of foes has a more significant impact than their strength. 7 slimes is more difficult to deal with than 3 crows. That's due to how players can take out at most 1 enemy a turn, while each enemy still gets an attack. So once you're at about level 5 and you're really exploring the first dungeon properly, you'll discover that the dungeons near the first and second town are linked, and both of them lead to the tower on the island. Inside the tower you'll find a convenient inn, and if you can scale it, there's a man at the top who will give you a key that unlocks the passages off the island. And then after that, it's a wide world out there. Mechanically, Dragon Quest III is just an iteration on Dragon Quest II. I think the key here is, Dragon Quest III is also the biggest game on the Famicom so far. Not just in terms of popularity, but the scope of Dragon Quest III is huge. It's a longer, more involved game than anything we've seen before on the Famicom. It also has the usual Dragon Quest problems. You have to grind a long time to do anything in the game. You'll be close to 3 hours in before you get off that first small island at the start. If you play Dragon Quest III, particularly in its Famicom form and not its innumerable remakes that streamlined a lot of this stuff, you're going to have to work for your progress. I've said many times before, and I'm sure I'm going to say it many times again, my daily format is really bad for anything that takes a bit of time. I feel like after my extended recording session, I've gone through about 1% of what the game has. Perhaps someday when I'm done with all of this, I'll be able to go back and actually finish it.